Well, hi there. Welcome to ChessBase Workshop. My name's Steve Lopez. Thank you for clicking on that link and joining us. Last week we looked at opening keys. We started a look at opening keys in ChessBase Workshop. We looked at Mega Database 2010, just a brief review, double-clicked on it, went to the opening tab, and what we get is Joachim Zunke's super key, where basically all the openings are covered, and to find an opening, all you have to do is find the first move here, as we did last week with the Schliemann, E4, then we go down the list, we find E5. If we don't find any more moves, we click on a little plus sign to open this up, and we go down here and we find Knight F3, then Knight C6, Bishop B5, F5, then a little plus sign again, and then we have a whole bunch of various Schliemann variations that we can go into. Very cool. But what happens now? This is a database that, or an opening key. It comes with a ChessBase database. When you get Mega Database 2010, it's there as part of the database. But as we know, as we've shown this a bunch of times, you can make your own databases in ChessBase. You can copy information from one database, put it into another one. Create your own database, put your own games in it. Then what? You don't have an opening key. What do you do? Well, we're going to show you this week in ChessBase Workshop. Here's a database you may be slightly familiar with. We used this in a bunch of workshops previously. It's a bunch of old 1800s games, 1830 to 1899, and I called it classical. That's when I named it when I made it. But this is it right here. Here's the games. We double click on it. There's our game list, and we come here to openings, and we click on it, and we don't get a key. What do? We got 4 buttons. There's several different ways we can tackle this. Select key. I never use this. I'll show you why in a minute. But what it will allow you to do is if you click on this, brings up Windows File Select menu, and you can go into a whole bunch of, you can go find another database and basically copy the key from a separate database over onto the database that you need a key for. It's a little bit of work. You only use that if there's a very specialized key you may have created or that you may have or whatever that you want to transfer. Reason why I'm going to gloss over this is because you can actually have ChessBase take an existing key and slap it on that database anyway. We'll show you that in a second. The other thing I want to show you is install empty key. We're not going to do that this week. We're going to save that for another workshop, probably next week. But you can create your own opening keys from scratch, which is really cool, but we're not going to do that right now. What we want to concentrate on are these 2 buttons. Install big key, install small key. What are the differences? What a small key is, a small key does not cover all the openings. It just has the most often played openings, and it does not give you move orders. It gives you verbal names of the openings. Allow me to demonstrate. If we click Install Small Key, we have to wait a few seconds. Bing! Just that fast, it was done. It took, I forget exactly how many games are in this database. I think about 12,000 as I recall. Let's scroll down and find out. Yep, about 12,500 games, and zap them into these keys. So if you're looking for example, a particular Sicilian variation, click on that plus sign next to Sicilian, and you have a whole bunch of named variations. So you want the Alpin, you click on Alpin, and the 6 games will come up down here at the bottom, and you could double click on it and find out how this fellow clocked Howard Staunton in a Alpin Sicilian. As always, here's the name of the opening, here's the number of games that use that opening. Closed Sicilian, there's 180 of them. Got the name of the opening, over here the number of games. However, what's interesting is if you add up all these numbers, under Sicilian, down to here, it does not add up to 788. If we click on it, there's a whole bunch of games down here, bunches of them, that did not get classified. That's kind of the weakness of the small key, is that there are going to be a lot of games that slip through the cracks and don't get classified into specific variations, just into the names of large opening systems like Sicilian. There are also 760 games under rest that didn't get classified either. Here's a game that started with 1A3, for example. which I got to click on. I got to look at some of this. I'm sorry. This is just bizarre. What in the world? I don't know. I'm going to go back and look at that later for sure. So what happens? We have 760 games that did not get classified under any of these keys, so they're not really indexed. They're just hanging out there loose. There's an E3 game. There's a D3 game. There's a bunch of games where there are no moves because it was a buy or what have you, or we don't have the moves for it. It was put in there for historical purposes, but the moves may be lost. There's all kinds of reasons why there wouldn't be moves to a particular game. So what do we do now? Well, what we do is we go back and we put a different opening key onto this database. Now, how do we do that? Well, I'll show you. First of all, close out of this. Go back to your main ChessBase screen. Remember, my database was called Classical. We'll just click on it, just single click on another database, just to get the cursor off of Classical. If you need to know where the database is located, because what we're going to have to do is go into Windows Explorer and delete a couple of files. If you need to know where that database is located, you can right-click, select Properties, and at the top of this box, it gives you the exact path. C drive, bases, CB Workshop, classical.cbh. So now I know where it's at. Click on another one, and I'll tell you why. If I keep this clicked on, the games will appear down here, and that means ChessBase is reading that database, and that means that Windows Explorer will not allow me to delete those files. So click on a different database. That way ChessBase releases that database. It's no longer trying to use it, and now you can go into Windows Explorer down here and notice there's a whole bunch of files called classical.whatever. Okay? Now, we have two files, classical CKO, classical CPO. We're going to highlight them both. Hold down the Control key on the keyboard and click on both of them. You'll notice they're both checked. Right-click, delete, and I do want to move them to the recycle bin. But I'm going to, again, repeat the files you want to delete end in .cko and .cpo. Don't delete any other files. Some files, you're not going to get hurt too bad if you end up deleting them. Other files, you're going to ruin the database. You're going to destroy that database. So be very careful here, okay? But to get rid of an opening key, because you might want to try a different key, in this case we had the small key, wasn't quite adequate. We want to go for the big key instead. Get rid of the CKO and CPO files. We click yes, away they go. We go back to ChessBase, and we're going to try it again. Double click on Classical. We have all these tabs across the top. Go to the Openings tab, and there are our 4 buttons again. We tried the small key last time. Some games slip through the cracks. The small key is exactly that. Not every single opening known to man appears in that small key. So we want to have every game neatly classified into some opening reference. So we're going to install the big key instead. This may take a little bit longer. Check it out. Big key developed by ChessBase, based on opening classification system of Chess Informant. And here we go. This is based on ECO. This is not Joachim Zonka's super key. It is a different key. Again, every opening is absolutely here, but it's organized more according to ECO lines than the slightly, I think, more logical super key. So there we are. Any opening that we want, we can find. C42. Here we go. 262 games. C42. Knight F3. Knight F6. Petrov. And what am I looking for here? Let's find unusual third moves. On second thought, let's not. I have another idea. We'll go down here to Knight E5. D6. There we go. That's what we want. Cochrane Gambit. After Knight E5, black plays D6, and then white takes the king. Cool. 34 games. Some of them played by John Cochrane himself. And the cool part is when you double click on a key like this, I forgot to mention this last week, it brings you into the game at the point that you were at. In other words, I double clicked on the key that said knight takes f7. Guess where we are? White has just taken on f7. It takes us immediately to that position, and now we can just bang through the game. The king hunt begins. Look at this. Look at that pawn center. I love this old stuff. These games are just fun. And now the king's position has been denuded, which is a word that is not used often enough in casual conversation. Yeah. So anyway, we can play through the whole game. I'm not going to. You can go look it up and finish the game yourself. I just want to show you this. So notice now that every single game is classified. However, there's a whole bunch of zeros here. You're going to find openings that do not have any games that fit that classification. Okay? So just be aware that with the big key, the files are huge. If you haven't installed the big key, the files are going to be enormous, and there are going to be a whole bunch of keys that don't have any games. What's wild about this 12,000 game database I'm working with, it's sort of right on the line between being too big for the small key and too small for the big key. That's why we see all these zeros when we start scrolling down or drilling down into specific sub-variations. But that's how you add a key to a database using a pre-generated key. You have the small key and the big key, and you got the choice of those two. And if you decide you don't like this result either, if you come in here and you go, well, I don't really want this either. Again, click on another database to allow ChessBase to release those files. Then you can go back, and here we have CKO and CPO again. Those are the two files that you want to delete. If you're not happy with the result of an opening key and you want to just delete the files, CKO and CPO are the file extensions. Right click, delete, send them on their way, and your database is fine. There's all your games. Just when you click the opening key, you get your choices here again. Next time around, we're going to take a look at another function of this screen. What could that be? Well, you'll find out next time around in ChessBase Workshop. Until then, have fun.